Marilyn, thank you very much. and, uh, and thank you all for being here. I'm assuming that some of you probably had a choice to either be here or be elsewhere. And you chose to be here, and I thank you for that. Let me tell you what a famous motivational speaker said. When you listen to speakers, sometimes, you may hear one thing that can dramatically change your life forever. Think about that. Maybe something I will say, something the other speakers will say, could change your life. So remember that. Here's my presentation. Yes, my name is Joaquín Vargas, and I was born and raised in Santo Domingo. So Maryland, I think that qualifies me as a Hispanic, right? I am pleased to say that I did study there, civil engineering in my home country, which is great. When I was finishing, I made a great decision, and that is to pursue a master's degree. I decided to go to Atlanta, Georgia Tech, transportation engineering, traffic engineering, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So for those of you that are in the master's program, congratulations. If you're in the PhD program, even better. Joanne, I know that you're in the undergrad program. If you're thinking about it, if it's a maybe, if it's in the future, let me tell you, you're wrong. A master's is a must in today's world to compete with everybody. It is an absolute must. Let me, I am registered, and that is something that I highly recommend. And I'll share a little story. When I was in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, there was only 2 of us that were Hispanic. Pedro Gonzalez, he was from Venezuela, and he got his registration, but he was going back to Venezuela. His father owned an engineering company there, but he got registered. And guess what? Things in Venezuela didn't go well. He's back in Miami. He got a job right away. If he wouldn't have had that registration, who knows what would have happened to Pedro. When you're in school, I'm sure that some of you have heard the engineering intern examination. Take it. Take it. Get your license, because you never know how that might help you in the future. A little bit about my work experience. I got a great start. I was hired by a company, Kimley Horn. It's a big company, coast to coast, 50 offices from the West Coast to the East Coast. I worked there for 8 years. After 8 years, my boss decided that he wanted to go on his own. And he said, Joaquin, do you want to join? Let's go on our own. And I said, yes. So I joined him, and I worked there for 6 years. And after about 6 years, the partnership was not working out. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to the corporate world. And I joined another big company, Carter and Burgess. Do you notice the trend? 8, 6, 3. It's not a good trend. So something inside of me told me that, you know, I think I'm going to do it on my own. Started my own firm. I've been doing it for 10 years. It's only me, but I have a group of 8 professionals. Depending on my workload, I hire them on an as-needed basis. The first day at work, this was the brochure that I prepared, and I sent 300 flyers to let people know that I'm on my own. And guess what? There was a technicality on the back. Almost all of them were returned by the post office. So here's my first day on my own. Am I a failure? Well, somebody said that failure is only failure if you accept it as such. I didn't. I sent all the flyers back out, and I've done quite well. Since I work in Florida, I do a lot of work for the Florida Department of Transportation. And I can say that in a couple of occasions, they picked up the phone and they've called me with some specific problems. Hey, Joaquin, we need to hire you for this. This speaks volumes. In South Florida, the 2 southmost counties, Broward County and Miami-Dade County, those are clients of mine. They haven't called me. I'm not that good. I had to go knock on their door for work, but I have done some work for Miami-Dade County and Broward County. Municipalities, I've done work for over 10 municipalities, and I can proudly say that 5 of those, either the city manager or the director of engineering picked up the phone and said, Joaquin, we have a traffic problem and we need your help. And I was able to assist them with that. Some of these cities I've been doing work for almost 20 years, and the relationship continues. Now, my bread and butter is the private sector clients, and I proudly can say that I've done over 1,000 projects in 10 years. That's a lot. Think about it. mostly in Florida, or all of it in Florida. And I had a project in Mexico. I know the professor is from Mexico, and also a project from Honduras. Those projects came to me, and let me tell you how they happened. These were very wealthy families. They came to Miami. They interviewed large engineering companies, large architectural companies. And they said, you know, a good traffic engineer, because we need traffic engineering for these projects. But that was not the important thing. They said, and the person needs to speak Spanish. Being bilingual, let me tell you, it's like having another profession. We ought to be proud of the fact that we know 2 languages, because it does help. In South Florida, I have many clients that are Hispanics. Many times they just call me, we talk in Spanish about the projects and so forth. Very, very important. So what does the traffic engineering do? You know, you all drive the campus, take the bus, and we do all these signs. You see all these signs all over the place, traffic signals. You might think, well, what's so difficult about that? Well, let me take the example of a simple stop sign, right? We place those so that people can stop. Do you think that everybody stops at a stop sign? They don't. We have to do special studies to see if a stop sign is the right thing to do. There's liability issues involved with that. So it's a little bit complicated. Sometimes I wish I could change the name of the sign or have a big speaker there, hey, stop. But all these local ordinances don't allow us to do that. I wish I could just change to something like that so that people can pay attention. A speed limit sign. I can guarantee you, if you drive, you have exceeded the speed limit. Not once, not twice, many times. It happens. To some people, this is what they think the speed limit sign indicates. Before I came here, I got a call from Nova Southeastern University. They're the 9th largest non-for-profit university in the country. They're a client of mine. And they said, Randy, who's the director of facilities, he called me and said, Joaquin, we have a speeding problem in the campus. So I go meet Randy, and I said, well, Randy, there's a curve. Why are they speeding? I don't know. I hope they're not Hispanic students, but anyway, they have a problem. So I looked at the situation, and I said, well, this is probably a simple problem, has a simple solution. So I recommended speed humps. And you've seen those little bumps on the road. There's 3 different kinds. In Santo Domingo, we call them sleeping policemen. As a matter of fact, it is a real English technical word, sleeping policeman. We also have the speed hump, which is a little bit more gradual. And we have a speed table. You see them at the airports where the top is flat. So I recommended the one in the middle of the road. They installed them. I told them, put one here, put one here. Well, guess what? They're speeding even more. So the students saw that we were doing something to slow them down, so they decided to speed even more. So what's the message here? Sometimes a simple problem appears to be simple, and you think it's a simple solution. And what I have now is a difficult problem. Guess what I'm going to do when I go back? But here's another message. Sometimes difficult problems have simple solutions. Always remember that. Now, it's not all about signs. We also do simulation, and let me see if I can put this on here. Is it moving? Yeah, this is an animation video that was put by a firm called Bergman. They were proposing a new bridge. Notice that there's no congestion there. They wanted to show a pretty picture to the client. But this is something that we do a lot of in our field. And I can proudly say that I was the first traffic engineer that introduced simulation in South Florida on a private sector job, the Fort Lauderdale Performing Arts Center. And then subsequent to that, I did a simulation project for the Florida Department of Transportation. Now, why was that? Was I smarter than anybody else? No. What happened? An opportunity came my way, and I grabbed it. Let me tell you how it happened. When I was at Georgia Tech, my advisor one day said, Dr. Parsonson, he said, Joaquin, there's a new procedure that was just released in the industry. It's called NetSim. Back then, it was floppy disks. And I think you ought to learn about it. That hit me like a torpedo. Wow. So guess what I did that night? I got the floppy disk, and I started looking at them. 2 weeks later, I went to my professor's office, and I said, Dr. Parsonson, I would like to do my research project on this. And you know what he said? I was hoping you said that. And I got the perfect example. Roswell Road in Atlanta, two-way left turn lanes, do the application, and that was my research project. Well, remember the first company I worked for, Kimley Horn, the big company? When I got there, I talked to the principals, and they already had heard about the simulation tool. And I said, you know what? I know it. And they bought it. So what happened shortly thereafter was the company that developed that program, KLD and Associates, they're from New York, they were going to South Florida to give a presentation, a seminar on the tool. So I went to my boss. I said, Joe, I want to go to that seminar. I want to go to that seminar. You know what he said? You can't go. You just started working here. You have no seniority. You know what I did? I didn't take no for an answer. I told Joe, I'm going to take two days off. Don't pay me. I'm going to pay my own expenses. I went to Sarasota, and I went and took that seminar on my own. Well, that company, we won so much work. I made so much money for that company because of that simulation tool. They had no choice. In 1990, they gave me an award, Young Professional of the Year. The point is, when an opportunity comes your way, take advantage of every one of them. There's about a handful of opportunities that come your way. Take advantage of every one of them. There's an African-American motivational speaker, Les Brown. He's great. You ought to listen to him. And here's a quote from him. It is better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than have an opportunity and not be prepared. Prepare yourself and take advantage of all opportunities. I'm going to talk a little bit about taking risks. Taking risks is important in everybody's career. Now, this is not something that you're going to do every day, every week, every year. It may be once every 10 years or once every 7 years, whenever that time comes. Let me share this example. I have two great examples. The Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, they had a project. In some big airports, their entrances, you have something like this. These looks like all these bridges, these spaghetti messes that takes you in and out of the airport. Well, they had a project that they spent 2 years designing the new concept for the entrances. And they wanted a firm or a team of firms to evaluate it, design it, and build it. Well, I used to work for Miller Consulting, the one on the right at the time. We formed this team, Miller Consulting, Biswinger, Hawk, and PCL. I was going to evaluate the concept from a traffic standpoint using simulation. Biswinger, Hawk, and Associates, the firm that's no longer in business, they were going to design it, and PCL construct it. Let me tell you a little bit about Biswinger Hawk. The owner of that company, he's retired. He's still alive. He's almost 90 years old. A genius. This guy is a genius. Multi-millionaire. But you know what the interesting thing about him? His name is Francisco Noroña. Hispanic, and he's from Ecuador. He is the most famous civil engineer in South Florida. And let me tell you what he did for this project. He said, I want to spend 2 days in a room that he called the war room. All we're going to do is come up with ideas. You've heard the terminology brainstorming. When we met with the airport, they said, here's the concept and here's the rules. There's only one rule. You shall not change the concept. So Mr. Noronha said, let's meet for 2 days, close the doors, and I want everybody to come up with an idea, at least 5 ideas. I don't care, everybody. But here were the rules that he set. Brilliant. He said, if Pedro here comes up with an idea, the tendency is, wow, that's a great idea. No, you don't do that, because now somebody else might say, well, maybe my idea is not going to be that great. Or if Mary comes up with an idea and somebody says, no, that's not going to work. Now Mary's going to feel like I may not have good ideas. So his rules were everybody brings ideas to the table. We will not we won't say anything about it. I don't care how ridiculous they are. And then we're going to evaluate them, and we're going to find 5 good things about each idea. And something about interchanges. The more levels you have, the more complicated and the costlier. This one, I think you all agree that there's nothing below that. The one above that is that one, so that's the second level. There's another one above that, third. There's another one above that, and there's another one above that. There's 5 levels on this particular example that I'm sharing with you. Well, when we completed the 2 days of being in that war room, we came up with the consensus that we have to change their concept. Now remember, they gave us rule number 1, you shall not change the concept. In the presentation, here's what we did. Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, you gave us one rule, not to change the concept. Please allow us to complete our presentation, but we did. Your concept had 4 levels, our concept has 2 levels. Your concept has 14 bridges, our concept has 9 bridges. Your concept has no savings, our concept has $9 million in savings for the airport. Your concept has no ability for future expansion, we will give you 8 acres to expand the airport. What do you think they did? We won the job. We took risks. Here is a photo of the actual built interchange. You see that's the first level. These 2 are at the same level. This is a Google view of the airport. This is the 8 acres. The concept they gave us had bridges all over that area. That's 8 acres. They can have future expansion for the airport. Again, take calculated risks. Here's another example. State of Florida. When I was on the 3rd firm before I went on my own, they sent me to Destin. Destin is a little farm village. They had a need for a parking study. And they said, Joaquin, this is your first assignment. You got to go win that job. I learned that there's a company by the name of Walker Parking that was pursuing that job. They're the best in the country. And they have more PhDs than anybody else I know. How am I going to beat Walker Parking? So I started to ask questions. You know, what am I going to do to beat Walker Parking? Beautiful place, beautiful beaches. And that's another technique. When you have a problem, ask yourself questions. You'll be amazed. It could be in the middle of your sleep. It could be eating. It could be talking to somebody. An idea may just come to your head. Well, I went there to do some research, and I walked the area. I talked to people. I met with city staff. And municipalities, they usually have a night meeting once a month with all the elected officials to talk about the business of the city. And I realized that that evening they were having a council meeting. So I go to see what they talk about, to see what the hot buttons were. And here's what I noticed, that they were very casual. The mayor didn't have a coat. And the commissioners, none of them had a coat. As a matter of fact, 2 of the commissioners had flip-flops and shorts. And I'm not going to take my tie. But anyway, I said, this is a very casual place. So here's what I decided to do. I told my team members, when we go to the presentation, don't wear a coat. Don't wear a tie. We're going to go casual. So we went to the little room, the waiting room. We were first. We're going to present first. And here comes Walker Parking with 6 people, 5 men, 1 woman, all men dressed 3-piece suits, ties. The lady had a nice little flower bouquet here pinned to her coat. And I am like, Joaquin, my God, los tres mosqueteros. We're going to be the 3 Stooges. We're going to make a fool out of ourselves. So we were first. We go to the presentation, and let me tell you, I was panicking. I said, what a mistake I've made. But here's how I started the presentation. I go to the podium, and I started, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity. You will notice something about our team. We're dressed casual. And let me tell you why. We're not the salespeople. We're going to be out there walking your parking lot. We're going to be out there talking to the people. We're going to be out there working with your staff. We're going to be taking the pictures. We're going to be taking the notes, and then we're going to go to the office. Now let me allow to present my presentation. Guess what happened? We won the job. And that's not the important thing. We were told later, because we were dressed casually, we were given the job. The commissioner said, these are the people that we want. We want all these people with PhDs working elsewhere. You got to take some calculated risks. Jim Rohn is a fabulous, he's no longer with us. He was a fabulous motivational speaker. He was considered the #1 business philosopher that this country has ever produced. And he said that no matter what you do in life, there's about half a dozen things you have to do well. Think about it. If you're a boxer, if you're a professional basketball player, if you're a professor, if you are an industrial engineer, there's about 6 things you have to do well. And here's something that I have learned. When you work with somebody that is really good at something, and you do that, you will become like that person. And I got a little graphics here to try to get my point across. Let's say you work for a company, there's 6 people there, Maria, Jose, Felipe. Maria is outstanding at number 1. And Jose is the best at number 2 in that company. And Felipe is unbelievable at number 3. If you work with each one of these people and do what they do, you will probably not get as good as Maria in number 1, but you will get really good at that. The net result, you can be better than all of them because you have improved your skills in all of the aspects. I'm almost done. One last quote. Zig Ziglar was a great motivational speaker. I listened to a lot of the things he said. He said that 15% of the reason why you move up the ladder in your career is because of your technical skills and knowledge. Now think about that. I go to school for a master's, a PhD, 15%. That's only going to help me 15%. What about the remaining 85%? People skills and people knowledge. My point is improve your communication skills. In summary, 6 things. A master's is a must. You got to do it. PhD, it's even better. Get your registrations. Take advantage of all opportunities. There's about a handful of opportunities that come your way. Take advantage of every single one of them. Calculated risks. I'm not suggesting that you violate the rules. I'm not suggesting that you dress casually. Evaluate each opportunity and make a decision. There's about 6 things you have to do well. Remember that, just 6 things. What are they? Try to improve on those. Improve your communication skills. There is an organization called Toastmasters International. It's very inexpensive. The purpose of it is to try to help you become more of a leader, help you communicate in public, and so forth. Very inexpensive. I highly, highly recommend it. That summarizes my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Impact in my life. Well, it starts with your parents. But professors, here's what somebody once said, that everybody has about 5 people. 5 people. And remember what Jim Rohn said. There's about 6 things. There's a little relationship to that. That will impact your life for the good. And some of those individuals, you may have met them or you may have not. They have may have been deceased as well. But professors, supervisors, sometimes you're going to have good supervisors, bad supervisors. You got to learn from both. But what you have to do is try to identify those 5 key people that will help you for the better.
Other questions?
Well, I'll ask myself a question. What challenges do Hispanics have in this wonderful country? And let me tell you, one of the challenges is communication. People also ask me, have you felt discriminated? I've been so focused on my work and try to improve myself that if I haven't even realized it. But communication is one of the things that is a weakness of ours. Some of you may have heard the terminology, you got to learn to walk the walk and talk the talk. It's a common phrase here in the United States. Many of us don't like football. Watch the Super Bowl so you can enter into discussions with other people. Watch the finals of a basketball game. You got to be involved a little bit in the things that this society is involved, because believe it or not, sometimes when you talk about certain things with people, you establish rapport, and that can certainly help you.
Let me ask you, what are some extracurricular activities that you've done throughout your
there's three things that come to mind. I mentioned one, public speaking. You got to take classes in public speaking. Another one, which you already have, Marilyn, when there's an organization, join. But not just join. Take a leadership role, start as the treasurer, start as the secretary, move up to being the president. Then you will get experience in organizations and putting things together and those kinds of issues. And then the last thing is there are seminars, you know, there are organizations, you know, the organization that oversees what traffic engineers do, it's called the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and they do international conferences, they do annual conferences. Go to those conferences because you will learn what's the latest, you will network, you will meet with other people. So I would summarize it in three things. Communication skills, go outside, get some help. Engineers are the worst at it. Number two, get involved with your local chapter and get a leadership position and attend all the seminars. Well, thank you very much. I know we have some other excellent speakers, and we